Welcome to the Immersive Lab podcast. I'm your host, Dustin Foose, and today we are diving into the world of immersive experiences. We are thrilled to have a true industry veteran, Clayton Talley. Clayton, welcome to the show. It's Clay, right?
Yeah. I'm happy to be here.
Before we jump into our discussion, I wanted to give our listeners a bit of background about your impressive career. You are the driving force behind CX Immersive and have over 15 years experience in the attractions industry. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey and the iconic brands that you've worked with?
Yeah, sure. So I've always been a theme park kid. My mom's from Southern California. We used to go to Disneyland all the time. And, I just fell in love with this idea of escaping to somewhere else. Not that my life was bad or anything. I had a great life. But going somewhere and like walking through this portal into something that's different. And there was, intentional things that were done to, invoke those emotions in me. And so I just fell in love with the idea. When I, graduated high school and moved to go to college, I went and applied to the local regional water park, and kind of got my first foray into the attractions industry.
You dipped your toe in the deep end,
I
as
sure
they say.
did. I was in charge of the guest relations office, and so I was kind of that punching bag for everything and anything that could go wrong in the water park. I was the guy that people came to find to express their frustrations and try to figure out how to improve their experience, right? While I was attending college, I was fortunate enough to be selected to go do the Disney college program, where I was a Jungle Cruise skipper and told really bad dad jokes every 6 minutes, and really learned what it's like to be a part of a really big brand and be a part of something that is much bigger than myself. Very well-oiled machine, and learn about how to delight a guest, every 6 minutes. We had a boat full of, 40 different guests, and learned how to, delight them every single time we came around the jungle. And
Favorite Jungle Cruise joke?
My favorite one is probably it's been some time. Let me think.
Because I've got my favorite one, which is always
you do yours, and then I'll tell you mine.
You can take a photo of the elephants because they've got their trunks on.
I love it.
That's a good one. If you've had a great time, my name is Skipper Dustin. If you had a horrible time, my name is not Skipper Dustin. Have fun.
I would say probably my favorite joke was one that I did unexpectedly in the hippo pool. You'd have a lot of annual pass holders who would come through. They knew all the jokes, and so my favorite thing to do was you take the pistol and you're supposed to scare off the hippos, right? I would go and do this big presentation. I would get the pistol out, and then I would use it and say shoo, shoo, shoo. And it got everybody every time because they were fully expecting the pistol to go off. So coming up with unique things and things that are different. I came back to Utah where I was going to school, and discovered this theme park that was being built, or was planned to being built. And one of the attractions that was there was this immersive VR experience called The Void. And I got connected with them. I got moved over, the theme park project kind of went on hold, and then I got moved over to this immersive attraction called The Void. And that is where I really learned effectively. My crucible is what I always joke on. Everything that I knew about the attractions industry and everything I didn't know about the attractions industry, and how to like pioneer all of that all at once. And so it was this really amazing experience where I came in, it was an alpha prototype, and we went from that and went full throttle into a global, launching attractions globally, having, every who's who come through, from Steven Spielberg to Harrison Ford to executives from Fortune 100 companies and everybody in between to kind of show them what can we do with technology to deliver guest experiences. What I loved about the Void is we weren't a VR company. We were an immersive experience company that used VR to create experiences for people. And so, we went 100 miles an hour, from doing our alpha prototype. Then we launched a Ghostbusters IP in New York, and then we went to Dubai, and then we partnered with Disney. We did the Disney Accelerator program, which was a huge help to me personally and professionally, where we were able to work with Disney executives, parks executives, one-on-one to really learn how to deliver consistent experiences. And then we launched several Disney IPs, including Star Wars, a Marvel Cinematic Universe experience with the Avengers, and then a Wreck-It Ralph experience as well. And it was an amazing experience. I learned so much. I grew so much professionally. And I left that experience and made my way to Texas. I landed with a great company that was scaling their water park business. I was able to work there, heading up their customer experience and be able to work with guests one-on-one, with different park leaders one-on-one. And it was a really great experience. And then I had a knock at my door from one of the former Void guys, the guy who actually came up with the concept of the Void. And he wanted to launch this VR experience, but with skydiving and base jumping. And so I, helped, advised and helped strategize, and then was eventually brought on full-time to help him launch the first proof of concept location in Utah. And this one was,
you made the jump.
Yes, to make the jump. And this amazing experience called Jump, it was yes, entertainment value, yes, attractions value, but also from a psychological standpoint, can you challenge your old self and your old ideals? And when you are put in a situation where there's a lot of fear involved, a lot of people are terrified of heights, right?
Absolutely.
So you put somebody in this experience where people are standing on the edge and they have to actually make that decision to jump. It's pretty spectacular, and to see the, people, they're firing these new neural pathways and challenging their old self in a very real way, in a very real sense. Fantastic experience, very, very multisensory, very immersive. You feel, partnering with real wingsuit jumpers, and to make it as authentic as possible was a really amazing experience.
Now, one of the things that you brought up over your entire career is your hands-on expertise when it comes to the white glove service strategy, which is something that you got from Disney and from all these high level. And we're not even talking like high level by way of volume. We're talking about it's a very high touch experience. When you look at Jump, when you look at the Void, when you look at Disney, you think about going to Disney, because I worked for Disney as well over in Epcot and then also in the stores. And you think about working for these massive organizations, but realistically, you are in a silo in your work area. You're not seeing every single person that goes up and down Main Street. You're not seeing every single person that pops through every park. You're seeing whoever steps through the door of your attraction. But with this comes exceptional guest experiences. Your experience could mean whether or not this guest in front of you has a good or a bad vacation. How has your approach to this white glove service strategy evolved over your career?
That's an excellent question. I think one of the things that helps you appreciate a guest experience is one, being a guest yourself, right? So you have to drink the Kool-Aid. You have to enjoy what you do, right? To really truly delight guests. And I've worked with professionals from all over, from hourly employees and professional employees, and the people who are really good at their job and the people who are really good with guests are passionate about delighting guests. And so you have to enjoy what you do, meaning you have to enjoy the industry. And then number two is I have been in the trenches. I know what it's like to be the employee where you're working a double that day and you're hot and you're outside all day and this guest was upset about this thing and they talked to you about this thing and and making mistakes and learning from those mistakes. And so I think that's kind of where the foundation of my career has been. That is one, I love the industry as a guest myself. But number two is like if you're gonna make dog food, you got to eat it, right? And so you have to know how these things work, and you have to be really good at understanding how the employees experience, the frontline employees experience, everything else. It's all about being intentional and intentionality, right? And looking at everything, whether it's web, the systems you use, the parking lot, the way people are greeted, the smells, the sounds, the music, everything all kind of comes together. You have to be very intentional about those things to deliver exceptional experiences. And so, that is how I look at things like that. The largest touch point that a guest will interact with is the employee. And so that is where I spend a lot of my time focused on ensuring that are we hiring the right people? Do they know what they should do? Do they have a greater sense of purpose, or are they just coming in for a job, right? And I tell staff that I'm not interested in people who just want a paycheck. There's thousands of other jobs you can get for that. I want people who are passionate about what we do.
We actually talked about that when Jim Fielding, former president of Disney Stores Global, was on the show. And he mentioned how everyone wanted to work at the Disney store.
Yeah.
But when you're a Disney fan and you're excited about working in the Disney store because you have access to discounts and the hub and all of these insights and, being the insider is fun. But you also have to have a level of service that the people who come into the stores and into the locations, they aren't there to hear your sermon about why what you're experiencing is the best ever. They want to see that you're playing a role. And that's one of the big things that when you're talking about your career and where things have gone, you've had that opportunity because, we've all, as soon as you've worked at Disney, you've had, the opportunities when, the rain comes down and you have folks coming out and saying, where's the bubble? Those types of things happen. I don't know if you ever did any of the massive holidays, but I worked New Year's Eve at an Epcot park, and you see that level of interaction where the guests are there, but you're part of this living and breathing organism. Everyone is in it together, and the staff are what makes that experience.
100%. And because they are the largest touch point. When I worked at the Void, I used to tell everyone all the time, listen, we have the most advanced product that has ever existed in the attractions industry. Like, people are being immersed in worlds that people have dreamed of, and we developed this amazing attraction. None of that matters if they have a bad experience with staff, if they have a bad experience when they go into the facility, when they come out of the facility. So being very intentional before, during, after is the most critical thing I focus on in my role, overseeing customer experience. Is how do all of these cogs, like what you were saying, how do all these cogs all play together? And if I take a step back, is it all working the way that it should, right? But also being able to see close enough at each cog individually and in the weeds to make sure that, hey, these, this needs a tweak here, this needs a tweak there. And it will always be that way, right? It's always like, it's never like we do a thing and then we, walk away. We did it. Everyone's good.
It's not Disney Quest.
I'm a big believer of continual improvement.
Absolutely.
For myself too. Like, I can't rest on my laurels either. In my skill set, I want to be challenged. I want to do new things. I want to continue to look at my work and reassess it. And it's the same thing with our experiences. It should be a continual improvement. We're always trying to do better. We're always trying to ultimately delight guests of all ages everywhere, right? That's why we do what we do. We want to make people happy of all ages everywhere. And so I think if we do that helps create that really, really world-class white glove guest experience approach.
Now, we've talked a little bit about this, but this is going to be a fun discussion. So the evolution of immersive experiences.
Yeah.
So how has the concept of immersion in entertainment and experiences evolved over your career and over the past few decades? And what do you see as the next frontier in immersive technologies? Because you've seen both sides. You have seen technology of a individual standing in front of a pool of guests doing stand-up, where your voice and intonation and different descriptive words can make or break an experience. And then there's other experiences where you're around in a screen and you've got 4D, 5D, all of these different elements. What is that next frontier in immersive technologies? Yeah, no,
that's a great question. I think a couple of things. I think immersive is a bit of a misnomer to me, because for me, being truly immersive is this holistic body experience where you are effectively transporting guests into something else, right? And it's this multi-sensory, utilizing of technology where we're not necessarily like showcasing the technology, going back to what I said about the void or jump or working with ballast currently. We're not VR companies. That's not what we are, right? VR is the technology we use to immerse guests in the environments, and there are things we do outside of that technology or in collaboration with that technology to really immerse them into these experiences. And so you take Jump, for example, and you are not just putting on a headset and lying down on this like flapper thing, right? That's cool that exists.
We've seen that with the bird experience at Area 15.
And that's great. And there's certainly a market for it. That's great. But when I say an immersive experience, I mean you are putting on a headset, you're putting on a real wingsuit, and you're walking out to this physical edge. And unbeknownst to you as the guest, you're being hooked up to this machine, a ride system, and you're physically jumping out, and you're smelling pine. You're feeling the wind on your face. Ballast, which is this amazing company that does immersive experiences for water parks, similar concept, right? Where you take a water slide, which is a great thing. It's an amazing thing. It's been around for a long time, since, for however long, since the 70s, 80s, when
I think I saw it in the Flintstones.
Yeah,
I think it's been around.
Yeah, it's been around for a long time, and so, and water parks, by and large, since the 80s, have been basically the same. And so, how do you take that and really immerse people? You take this amazing headset that's got this experience. It's all matched 1-to-1 to the slide, and you go down the water slide, and you're feeling the turns of the slide as you're seeing these, amazing visuals of different worlds, whether they're aliens or safari or things like that. Same thing with snorkeling. Rather than being in a pool and snorkeling, you're being immersed in, Atlantis, or you're going on this ocean adventure. And so that's, for me, immersive technology or immersive experiences is this full, very real, full body, multi-sensory type experience. I think there are immersive technologies that exist out there, but by and large, it's not a showcase of the technology as much as it's how are we transporting these guests into these different experiences.
Well, that's that next step, which is the physiological combination. We talk about the blending of emotions, perceptions, and how folks are really experiencing this stuff. But how can immersive experience actually leverage the psychology to create more impactful and memorable experiences? And we talk about jump, where you're literally psyching yourself up to jump off of a cliff and to go into this experience. What else is out there that you could do that and still get the same rush?
Yeah, and similarly, with the Void, we were very intentional with the physical and digital, because one of my most favorite things was to wait, and it was to wait for guests to come out of the experience, and our headsets had this kind of flick up, where they could take the visor and flip it up.
Yep.
Every single time guests would walk out of that Void experience, they would pop their visor up and they would just what did I even experience? Because it was so physical. You would go and you'd reach out and you would feel a torch in your hand, and the torch would light up, but you'd physically be holding a prop. But it was, and you're looking around, or you see a chair, you can sit in the chair. And so that blending of the physical and the digital, I think, is a really important thing with immersive experiences. And the technology is there to assist, but it's not in the way of, right? We still like physical things as humans, right? We'd spend, especially with the onslaught of, our digital devices, like our iPhones, and we're looking at computers all day. We get digital all day long, right?
Even esports. You look at these types of things, and we're seeing it on, a day-to-day basis with, the Putt Shack world, and then you've got all these new baseball with Bat Box coming out. You've got Top Golf. You've got all these things where it's that increased realism.
Yep. And
one of the things that we've had conversations about is how far is too real.
Yeah. And that's an excellent question. I think for me at least is in the attraction, is the way it applies to the attractions industry, I guess, is people are looking for escapism, right? And so I think if we keep that as our sandbox, but we build the castles within that sandbox, I think that's an okay thing. I think that we can, we're there to do several things, right? So we're there to delight. Some people really crave, frightful experiences. At the Void, we had a horror experience that was fantastic. We separately had Ghostbusters, and people loved it, thought it was so great. But we still had this, this perimeter of escapism that we're still, our ultimate goal is to delight people and to ensure that they're having a really good experience. I think if we keep that as kind of our like guiding path, then we know we're doing good.
And that's also one of the reasons why when we're attracting new guests into the attraction world, they can sit at home on their phone and they can, swipe and everything like that. They can play video games. But there is that element of getting them out the door, into their cars, into transit, whatever it is, and through the front door of these experiences in order to take advantage of this.
Yeah.
And there is that level of, we're paying to experience something. You can't just do that from home. I know there are folks out there who think about immersive experiences as, we're seeing a concert on things like Disney Plus. And I saw Hamilton, and I know when you're in the theater, it's so much more impressive than watching it online, which makes you want to go and see live experiences more often.
Yeah, and I think we as humans crave that in an ever increasing digital world anyway. It's kind of like when Walt Disney was building Disneyland, he talked about the Disneyland berm, right? Whereas this perimeter of Disneyland, and everything outside of that is the real world, and inside of the berm is Disneyland, and very intentional with this, popcorn smells and views, and making sure that guests can't see things outside of the berm, right? And so I think the same thing with these experiences, these immersive experiences, like we have to be very intentional to not remind people of the things that they're trying to escape from. And again, it doesn't have to be like, oh, life is dull and droll and boring and all of that. It's more of just like we're looking to escape into something that's different, that makes us appreciate life better in the real world. And so I think if we keep that in mind as far as developing these experiences and what is our Disneyland berm, right? Of protecting guests from the outside world, and how are we intentionally designing that and creating those different experiences and making sure that people are delighted, or they get a scary experience, or whatever we're intentionally designing for these experiences, that they're a good thing.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that and I'd love to have more conversations with you. I know that there are things that we didn't even touch today, but one of the experiences that we're going to be talking about a lot are these regional experiences moving forward, and opportunities to bring international storytelling experiences into folks' backyard. So that's going to be on the next show, and I'd love to have you back on that. But just wrapping up, your perspective is amazing on immersive experiences. I love the idea that you went from all these different levels within the industry, and you're continuously giving back. I bet that when you're traveling, whoever you're traveling with loves the fact that you're in the attraction industry. My partner is kind of one of those folks. When we're traveling, she's always like, okay, we're going to the gift shop. We're going to make sure that everything's great, but it's like it's a different world when you're traveling and you're in the industry.
Yeah. No, it's fun. My family loves. They love the attractions industry. It's what we do for fun anyway, and so it's fun. I can offer little dad tidbits here or there of oh, did you know that in this, if you look back there, you can see this thing, and oh, if you look over there, there's a look in the boneyard, you can see the Batman vehicle that used to be a part of this show that was in the mid-90s, and my kids are like, oh, okay, but then I could tell that they love it. So
of course. Hopefully, they'll get into the Disney College program in the future, and then you can, spread those seeds and see where things go. But for our listeners who want to learn more about your work, or potentially even collaborate with you, where can they find you online?
So I love LinkedIn. So you can find me on LinkedIn. You can also go to my portfolio website, which is cximmersive.com. You can send me an email. We can connect there. I'm a big believer of when we help each other, the whole industry rises. And so that's one thing I really truly love about the attractions industry is I feel like we're very close knit. It's a very small circle, but it's a good circle. And I think as we all help each other out, it elevates the industry and makes it ultimately better for guests, right? It makes it better for all of us, and we move the industry forward.
100%. So to our listeners, thanks for tuning in to the Immersive Lab podcast. Remember, whether you're launching a new attraction or enhancing an existing ones, experts like Clay are out there to help turn your vision into reality. But until next time, keep exploring those immersive frontiers.